Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Dr. Jaime Goff. She is a transformational leadership expert. She wrote this best-selling book, The Secure Leader, and we'll be sharing her journey next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I think you'll agree with me. It's more difficult to be a leader today than in any time in recent memory. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, the leadership style was my way or the highway. Any questions? And these days, recent college grads, they want a seat at the table and they want to have a voice in every conversation. And so to manage egos and manage expectations, you have to have some real finesse. Dr. Jaime Goff is in the studio. She's a transformational executive coach, and she's the author of this best-selling book, The Secure Leader. Jaime, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right, so let's share a little background, because you spent a whole lifetime in higher education.
Yes, I did. I started my career in higher education. My PhD is actually in couple and family therapy.
Nice.
And then later on, as I moved into leadership roles in higher education, I became interested in leadership and leadership theory and research around leadership, and started looking at how my expertise in psychology could relate to leadership and how it might inform how we show up as leaders and how we understand ourselves as leaders.
Well, you were talking just before the show, and you educated me in just 2 minutes that there are different leaders, and 2 of them are based in anxiety, and 1 is based in security. Can you drill down a little deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my book, I talk about actually 3 leadership styles, 2 that are insecure and 1 that is secure. The 2 insecure styles are anxious and avoidant. So the anxious leadership style, I think if you think about pop culture examples, the best example that comes to mind is Michael Scott from The Office.
Yes.
They're really driven by a need to be validated and affirmed and liked by other people. And you can see where that might get in the way of being the best leader, because there's a challenge in holding people accountable and giving good feedback if you want everyone to like you and if you want to be the fun boss. The other insecure style is an avoidant insecure leader. And the example I use from pop culture for this is Miranda Priestley from the movie The Devil Wears Prada. People are terrified of her, and these leaders lead through fear and criticism and judgment, and they're driven by a need for control. And they have a hard time empowering other people, delegating to their teams, really helping their team members grow. So they struggle with leadership as well. And then the third style, which hopefully we're all striving for, is to become secure leaders. Leaders who are, driven by a need to contribute and really want to build other people up around us, who are able to listen to other people, collaborate well, receive feedback. And those are the kind of leaders that we need in today's context, like you were mentioning earlier.
Absolutely. We're going to scroll down her website, and as we scroll down the website, why don't you talk about the audiences that you like to speak to?
Yeah.
Very popular keynote speaker.
Yeah. So, all audiences, any audience who's interested in leadership and really investing in their leaders, helping to give them tools, helping them grow and to become those types of leaders who can create high-performing teams that are categorized by, psychological safety and true collaboration and innovation. So any specific, discipline or field, I've spoken to a lot of different types of organizations. So from healthcare to finance to technology companies.
All right, we're going to show your book cover on the screen. Let's talk about The Secure Leader. How long had you been working on this in your mind before you put it down on paper?
Probably a decade.
Really?
Yes, yeah. I started thinking about this book over 10 years ago when I was still in higher education. Like I said, I'd moved into leadership roles, so I was thinking about how my expertise from psychology, my psychology background, related to what I was doing as a leader. And so at that time, I put a few feelers out there into the world. I wrote a few blog posts, maybe made a few LinkedIn posts.
Yes.
Crickets. Nobody
Yes.
cared.
Yes.
Nobody was responding. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'm not hitting on something here. But then I think after COVID, for whatever reason, I thought maybe this would resonate a little bit more now
Yes.
than it has in the past. So I put some things back out there again. And then all of a sudden, people seemed really interested in what I was saying because COVID changed things for how we work together as teams and how leaders relate to their followers in so many ways and on a deeper level. And so I think that there was a need for this kind of
Yes.
work after COVID, whereas before COVID, maybe there was still a need, but people
Yes.
just weren't seeing it.
All right, so I'm going to challenge you a little bit. So
Sure.
I'm a pleaser. I want everybody to love me.
Yes.
I have my daughter's my vice president. I have an operations person. They kind of run the day to day, and I get to be the Michael Scott
Sure,
who
sure.
just
Yeah.
shakes hands, kiss babies,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
tells people how wonderful they are. So if you know that you're this personality type,
Yeah.
if you hire others to do the tough stuff, does it work?
You know, I think it can. And I think what that says to me about you is that there's a level of self-awareness that you have, that you're aware of those tendencies in yourself. And so you're going to surround yourself on your senior leadership team with people who will help compensate for that. And we all have weaknesses and growth areas as leaders, right?
Yes.
Even if we're secure leaders. So yes, I think that can absolutely help if you have that type of self-awareness. I think where it might be more challenging, perhaps, is at those lower levels of leadership where you may not have the option,
Right.
to surround yourself because you don't have that type of
Yes.
power in the organization. And that's where it can get challenging and really get in your way.
All right, tell me one of your favorite success stories.
Yeah. So I think of a leader I was working with, and this was someone who was leading a highly competent cross-functional team. So she was a leader in her organization, but leading a research project. It was someone who had a national grant leading a research project. And if you know anything about that, there's a lot of moving pieces. So she was working with experts across different departments and different functions with no positional authority. And she was kind of driven by this anxious style where she really wanted to be liked and was seeking affirmation and lacked some confidence in herself. And because of that, she was struggling to hold the team accountable, and she would end up kind of punishing the entire team when there was really one person on the team that she needed to have some tough conversations with. And she was afraid to do that because she wanted them to like her.
Yes.
So we were able to really work through what was going on deeper inside of her that was blocking her from holding that person accountable, from having those tough conversations with that person, and moving some of those barriers out so that she could start engaging with the team in a different way and engaging with that individual in a different way. And she was able to kind of get past that. The team became more collaborative in the way that they functioned. There was more accountability present, and they were able to experience success with their project.
And Dr. Goff is an amazing speaker. I found one little clip. Let's go ahead and roll that.
If we did have a character who represented the insecure avoidant leader, they would be like, stop crying, this is ridiculous, pull yourself together, right? That would kind of be the approach. But in sadness, I think what we really see demonstrated is how a secure leader would approach that situation, which is through being attuned to the person that you're talking to. And sometimes when I talk about this, people will be like, I don't have time for that. But the thing is, what happens if we don't attune to people that we work with, give them the space to share their feelings? They reject us, they resist, they often end up undermining like where it is we're trying to go. And so if we can just take a moment to be attuned, to listen, to give people space, generally speaking, they're going to be able to get back on track and we'll be able to move forward toward our goals again.
So powerful. Let's talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, because we have a lot of young people now leading teams of employees that are old enough to be their mom and dad. And if you're 22 leading a team of 50 and 60-year-olds, you have a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody has imposter syndrome, even the C-suite executives, to be quite honest. And I think we're seeing now in research that it impacts men and women just as much. And, you know, I had imposter syndrome when I first became a leader. I think I was 27, 28 years old. I was a department chair in a university. And the first conversation I had to have, the first challenging conversation I had to have with someone in my department was a faculty member who at the time was probably 65. And he was also a senior administrator at the university, but he reported to me as a faculty member. I was terrified, and I thought, how can I have so little experience compared to this person. How can I have this conversation with him that's going to be really challenging? And so I, kind of being familiar with the research I talk about in my book, I decided to start from a place of just acknowledging to him that I was anxious and that I was struggling with some imposter syndrome, to even sit down with him and have this conversation. And that created a lack of defensiveness on his part. So he was disarmed by my vulnerability and being honest with him. And we were able to have a really good conversation about the challenge and about the things I needed him to change in his behavior in order to continue teaching in the department.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. We have about 2 minutes left, so look into the camera on the left and talk to that leader who might need to bring you in.
Yeah, absolutely. I would, I love coaching and working with leaders one-on-one, diving into what's really driving your leadership story, how you're showing up as a leader, and trying to unlock those internal barriers that might be getting in your way and keeping you from fulfilling your potential. And then in speaking, I really love doing deep dive workshops with senior leadership teams where we can, again, really dig into those deeper places with people to help them flourish and become the leaders that their teams need today, and help them learn how to interact with and relate with the younger workers that they're dealing with on a daily basis.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your wisdom with us. We're going to end with her website, which is drjaimegoff.com. Dr. Jaime Goff, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.